Monday, April 25th, 2027, Town Council, Mayor and Town Council meeting to order. It's exactly 7:01 p.m. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That moment of silence, please. Okay, thanks. All right, so first things first would be our public comments. We have two staff members in the audience and no one else. Do either of our staff members have public comment? Okay, we will move on. Actually, we're going to review last meeting's minutes at next meeting, and we have no unfinished business, and that brings us right quick to new business, which is that only item is to consider, discuss, and act on the introduction of Ordinance 2022-02 for fiscal year 2023, which is the Sykesville annual budget. And I'll turn that over to Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. So again, before you tonight is the introduction of the FY 2023 budget and the associated documents that come with it. So we wanted to get it in front of you tonight so that everybody had plenty of time to take a look at it. We obviously will have an open session at our next council meeting on May 9th. So that if there are any questions that you dig into over the next 2 weeks, we certainly have plenty of time to answer those. That meeting will then be followed by the meeting on May 23rd, which is where we'll have our public hearing and final adoption of this document. So again, the combined budget is a little over $4.5 million. This is roughly a little more than 20% increase than our current fiscal year's budget, which if anybody sees that number out of context, it is quite a significant increase. However, there are a combination of factors that contribute to that increase, the main one of which is the addition of ARPA funding to next year's budget. So all that money we received from the federal government is now getting into the hopper to be ultimately spent. And a lot of those expenditures are listed either within the capital improvements plan or within the budget write-up as it was presented. Let's see. We're also budgeting for a fully staffed police department, so that includes a full complement of 10 sworn officers, which will allow us to move to a full 24/7 operation, along with 2 officers on duty per shift. So again, that's something that we haven't been able to have over the past years, but we will moving forward. The budget does include holding the current property tax rate at 0.33 or 33 cents per $100 of assessed value. This is higher than our constant yield rate. So as most of you have been through this process before, the state tells us how much money we would normally collect if we were to reduce the rate, or how much money we would collect from year to year with a constant rate. But we're deciding to actually keep our rate where it's at today rather than reducing it, so that our actual revenues will actually increase slightly. I think it's a little over 4% is what we're proposing. So we are proposing keeping that property tax rate right where it is. The other thing I wanted to point out is actually located in the capital improvements plan, again, a document that's along with the staff write-up, and specifically Table B. I don't expect anybody to actually read anything on the screen, but if you look at that document, you'll see that there are color codings that have been added to, these are all the capital improvements or capital projects that we are proposing over the next several fiscal years. A color coding is basically just so we can have a quick glance to figure out which projects are being grant funded, which projects are ARPA funded, and then what is coming out of our just regular capital reserve. So if it's green is for grants, the blue is for the ARPA funding, and then again, if it doesn't have a shade at all, it is just coming out of our general capital reserve. So if there are any questions tonight, certainly staff is here to answer them. Otherwise, staff is recommending that we approve the introduction of Ordinance 2022-02 as presented, and set the public hearing date for May 23rd.
So first of all, are there any questions for staff before we ask for any kind of motion?
Would it be better to just hold off on the questions until next meeting when you get a little bit more in depth? Or
if there was anything that was jumping out at you, I'm happy to answer it tonight.
Okay.
Because the plan is to, as Joe mentioned, to have a workshop so we can really dive in at that point, but I guess this would give us a chance to have anything off the top of our heads, and I think President Carter has a question.
I do, and I'm sure that there's reasoning behind this, but I noticed that housekeeping is under parks maintenance and not under public works.
Well, actually, the housekeeping is under several different categories.
Correct.
Just depending on which building they're doing the housekeeping on.
And does public works not need housekeeping?
No.
Okay.
Some of the cleanest men you will ever meet.
Okay.
Good deal.
I had a question in reference to on page 22 of the capital improvements plan. The apple butter factory doesn't have any expenditures for 24 and 25, and I was wondering why not. Like the 50,000, I think is for like feasibility and some engineering.
That's correct.
And so I would have assumed that there would have been money, in one of those out years, in order, like, otherwise why are we doing the engineering and feasibility?
Sure, and part of that is just because until we set the vision and know what we're going to be using the building for, we don't really know what an expense would look like.
Okay.
We could certainly put a number in there just to, I guess, get us used to seeing something there, and we could always adjust it as we get there. That would show a negative balance because the things that you do that are shown on that particular table are funded for the most part. There might be one or two projects that don't have funding as we get further out, like say into the 2026, 2027 area. But if you'd like a number in there, we can certainly plug one in just as a placeholder for now.
And Councilman Schofield, the feasibility in this case is kind of different, I think, than what we're mostly used to thinking about when we think feasibility. There wouldn't be really, I don't think at this point, any engineering involved in that line item. It's really more of a strategic planning and an identification of a vision, then creation of the strategic plan and kind of getting, as you know, and I'm saying this for the public's, for their welfare, but it would also include creating public outreach and determination of almost like a charrette, if that's what we want to call it. I'm not sure how exactly that'll shake out with respect to the public outreach portion, but the plan is to have to work with a consultant to identify all of those things. And then engineering would even follow, I think, that and be a separate line item in the future. But if you guys are in favor of
I think it's better to have a line item in there, even if it's a different color that doesn't have any funding, just so that we're aware that it's going to cost something, and so that the public is aware that it's going to cost something if this is something that we want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what other people think, but I saw that, and that was one of the questions I had. I had some other questions, but I'll bring them up at the next meeting. It's fine.
Okay.
Thanks.
And then mine is, whether it's today or if you want to go into it at our next meeting, is understanding, being new to the council, the decision on the tax rate.
Okay.
Kind of the pros and cons of going either way and why the staff is recommending sustaining where we are.
And again, the quick answer is typically just for consistency purposes. It's just easier for us to keep that tax rate right where it is. And again, obviously, if you lower the tax rate, the revenues go down. So there needs to be some sort of adjustment within the operating budget to offset that decrease in revenue.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for the thoughtful question.
Mm-hmm.
So, Al, you didn't have any?
I guess to follow on, I could kind of wait too until next week. I have a couple questions, but it's nothing earth-shattering. But to Jeremiah's point, I'm kind of indifferent about adding money on that because we don't know what that charrette, if you want to say, is gonna produce.
Bring forth, right?
So it's like we're kind of giving the okay on something that we haven't seen yet.
And I'm not suggesting we're saying okay.
Yeah.
What I'm suggesting is that it's just in there because otherwise it just doesn't make sense otherwise. Like, why are we spending $50,000 in order to do nothing? I think we all know, and we've all said in a working session, that we have interest in this being a priority, but it's not, if it's not shown with any sort of even swag budget estimate, it just doesn't make sense to me.
I think we're kind of getting a plan, and then we could vote on the plan after that and set aside some money. That's kind of how I feel about it, but again, I'm kind of indifferent. I understand your point, but I'm like, Like, that's kind of like saying we all agree that we're gonna go forward with whatever that comes out with, or whatever, however much money it's gonna be, and that's gonna be have to be coordinated between quite a few people, I believe. Not
So,
just,
so this is
Well,
why
it'll
I,
hopefully involve probably all different. The funding stack will be will look varied.
Yeah.
You know, it'll have
Yeah.
multiple layers, probably some grants, probably some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the reason that I'm saying what I'm saying is that we don't know that Sandusky is gonna be $2 million either, right? I mean, we have $200,000 in there for probably mostly engineering this year, maybe some design and for the efforts that need to happen. And then we've got 1.8 next year for demolition and site plan improvements. And I'm not sure it's going to cost that much. It might cost more. There's a lot of, and so even on those numbers, I don't think we're all saying, yes, we're agreeing right now for 1.8 million. This is how much we're going to put there. It's just an estimate. That's why I'm putting it out there. Just the story didn't follow all the way through on that one, and that was the only one that it didn't follow all the way through.
Fair enough.
Could we get could we get the proposed budget in manipulatable form rather than PDF?
You want the Excel?
Yeah.
so if you're gonna give the Excel to all of us, maybe give us last year's numbers right in that.
Oh, I was going to ask for that
Or-
next, but you beat me to it.
Or a whole nother.
Yeah,
I pulled
longitudinal
up last
analysis.
year's. Yeah, I pulled up last year's budget and just kind of went through line
I
item.
can have that.
He has it side by side already.
He knew I was going to ask for it because I did last year.
Yeah. No, I'll have that sent out tomorrow.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment to Councilman Schofield? I know in my daytime work, if there's a placeholder that we need to do, we'll put like $1, so that way it's noted that there's gonna be a future expense, but we don't have $10,000, $1 million allocated. Would that be something that you would be?
I mean, no, because I think it's a I don't think it's an accurate, even close to number. I mean, normally the line items come in, and design and engineering is about 10% of the total cost of the.
Oh, we do have a rough estimate of
Right.
what it would take to build that out for one use, or the one that we were kind of throwing around as a, yeah. Well, it was closer. It exceeded $750,000.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, it was roughly 1.7 or $8 million. But again, that was for a specific use in mind with respect to a makerspace and a robotics area and a community center type situation with flexible interior space. So I have a feeling that number is probably going to be close no matter what the vision becomes for the building, because that includes all of the I guess you would call it the systematic improvements, HVAC and so on. So if we want to put something in there now is the question, well, how much could probably be, pretty generalized with the information we've obtained from engineering that was done at no cost to the town for that idea, for that vision. So do we need to make that decision this evening about?
No, I
Putting that
can
out.
work on, I guess, adjusting the CIP.
And then we can talk further.
When we get back together on May 9th,
Okay,
if it's in there, you'll know you have the.
fair enough. Let's see. Let me just jump back over here. Did you have anything, Councilman Dyer?
No, I got my request in.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
good.
Very good. How about Councilman Keenan?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Chief, you got anything to say about this budget?
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you, right?
Wonderful to me.
Good deal. Good deal. Okay, so at this point, I'm looking for a motion to approve the introduction of the ordinance 2022-02, fiscal year 2023, Sykesville annual budget.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a
Second.
Oh, okay. So let's say the motion is made by Councilwoman Guroff, and we'll give the second to Councilman Schofield. Was it Councilman Schofield?
No.
Councilman Dyer. I feel like an auctioneer. Here we go. All right, sold. So all in favor of the motion? Great. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is passed unanimously for the record. That brings us to our announcements and reports. I'll begin with the next regular meeting is scheduled for Monday, May 9th, 2022. We have volunteer opportunities available on the Historic District Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, Police Auxiliary, and Crossing Guard. Anyone interested or wanting to know more information about those volunteering opportunities, please email town@sykesville.net. That brings us to staff updates, and I guess we'll start with our public safety report from Chief. Does that work?
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
I get to go before you for once, huh?
I'm awful.
He's just here to look pretty.
That's
I mean, look at the colors. He's all spring today.
I'll tell you,
Yeah.
the colors are just
Yes.
She's
very
mentioned that.
nice.
Yes.
All right, well, it's good to be back with you again. I understand Sergeant Kilgore both informed you and entertained you last
did.
time. So I'm glad to hear that.
As always.
Yeah, he's a good man. We're talking about the public safety report covering those 10 days, April 4th through the 14th. Not a whole lot going on. You see 240 total events. And during that period, there was only 6 incident reports that we took. So I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have about any of those events. I guess there was only 5 community policing events. I'm hoping that'll go up as the weather continues to warm up. And really, that's about it. Any questions about any of the reports or calls for service? Or?
Nope, I don't have any.
Lots of head shaking to my right. How about to the left? No questions or comments? Thank you, Chief. That was
Excellent.
super easy.
I would like to add, just real quickly,
Yes, sir.
some updates on some of the staffing.
Great.
Officer Juan Revelo is now completed his field training and is patrolling on his own, doing a great job. So if you haven't had a chance to meet him yet, I hope you will. He's doing a great job. We're lucky to have him. Officer Young still has 3 or 4 weeks left in her field training. She has to go longer since she was an entry-level graduate as compared to Officer Revelo, who was already certified. But she continues to amaze us and does great work. In fact, she's at a point now where I believe tonight she is riding in her own car with Officer Kirkner kind of shadowing her. So that's remarkable within 3 weeks to have that comfort level to allow your trainee to be driving on your own is pretty remarkable. So she's doing a great job. And then officers, of course, recruits Hapa and Picardo still doing well in the academy. They're in their 7th week, and we get weekly updates on their status, and both continue to do well. So we're very fortunate, really, at this point in time to have the staffing that we do. I just got back from a meeting of other chiefs, municipal chiefs around the state, and they're all complaining about not being able to find new officers and new recruits. So we must be doing something right here to be able to have what we have. So
It's one of the first times you got to say, nah, 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 nah.
I was tempted, but I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Things
Well,
can change quickly.
For sure. My only comment to you, what you just shared with us, is that Sheriff DeWeese promised that Officer Young was a force to be reckoned with, and actually used a different phrase, which I won't share this evening, about kicking people's butts. But yeah, so it's great to hear, and I'm not surprised, so that's great. Thank you, Chief.
And our auxiliary's doing well, even with Lieutenant Queen's extended absence due to work. We have 6, and we have two more that we just interviewed recently.
Great.
One is definitely we're going to move forward with, and probably 2. So it's good timing considering all our events are getting ready to start. Of course, the Art and Wine is just 2 weeks out, so very good timing for us to have the staffing that we do and be able to successfully manage these events. So thank you all for your support.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Chief.
it.
Absolutely. That brings us to our council and committee reports, and we'll start with, let's do Leo first.
Sure. Okay. Not too much to report. The board did not meet this month because they did nonprofit training for 6 to 8 hours on a Saturday. So we gave them the rest of the month off. As Chief mentioned, the Art and Wine Festival is coming up on May 7th, noon before. And I can't believe it, I'm actually seeing it. It's the 10th annual Art and Wine Festival. It's been going on for quite some time, so we're very proud of that. And then the following weekend, the following Sunday, is the beginning of the Sykesville Farmers Market for the season. So we're all excited about that. The parade is gearing up as well. At least 3 marching bands so far and other members. And that is scheduled for July 2nd, beginning at 10 a.m. And lot of work on the community garden this past weekend with planning on May 14th. And there's been work on Little Sykes as well, in terms of restoring their cityscape, that wooden work in the back that kind of shows the town, and some planting and water retention gardens there as well. And we still do have volunteer opportunities for art and wine, so if anybody wants to volunteer for that, they can reach out to the DSC and they'll give you the Sign Up Genius link. That's it.
And it's available on the Facebook page,
Yep.
right? Good.
Yep.
Anything from you, Councilman?
All
Jackson?
good.
Okay. Councilman Gurrow?
Parks and Rec, so, Easter egg hunt was a huge success. And
Indeed, it
Thank you
was.
for being there.
Sure. I enjoyed it. Maybe
Um,
more than the kids.
And from what I saw from the notes, I think we had more eggs than we've ever,
Yes, over 3,000, I was told.
yeah.
And they went in 52 seconds. I wish I were kidding.
53. So.
53.2. That was the number I had in reverse. Yeah, it was crazy. It was almost scary.
Don't fall down. 53 seconds.
Honestly, I had my back to the kiddos. I was going to take a selfie with them all behind me, and before I realized they were rushing me. And I just dropped my phone and ran. They had fun. It was good.
And then the scavenger hunt, we had a couple entries, not as big as last year.
It wasn't as big as last year, but well, we didn't have the Easter egg hunt at all last year. It was just the scab egg hunt. I think there were 8 or 9 entries. So those people were notified. The people that won were notified, and I think we're going to do a Facebook post if we haven't already, just notifying or showing the winners. So.
And then we've got incredible sponsors. It's more than we've had for the movies and events. And then we also, so that will start up soon. And then some music towards the end of the summer.
Good deal.
So, yeah.
And I'm pulling up an email from Brian Trost from Spark, who reported to me so that I could pass along from a Keep Sykesville Beautiful perspective, so I could pass the amount that was picked up at the cleanup on Saturday in honor of Earth Day. Looks like, wanted to let you know, Mayor, that at the cleanup we picked up about 5 industrial-sized garbage bags of trash, as well as 1.5 bags worth of recycling. And it appears that most of the turnout was actually Spark members, and not so many volunteers this year. I'm not sure that it was publicized as broadly as it has been in the past, but it sounds like the committee or the commission itself showed up as expected and as always. So that was good news.
Historic District Commission is meeting on May the 10th.
Okay, short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
Thanks, President.
7 o'clock, Facebook. I believe we're still meeting Facebook.
Oh, really?
Or
You mean
Zoom.
virtually?
Zoom.
Virtually.
I think we're open to coming back in person, but I know a few of them were still a little nervous about meeting in person.
Yes.
So.
That's to be announced. We'll
Okay.
let you know.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Schofield.
And so, no updates other than the next planning commission meetings on May 2nd at 7 p.m. So
Okay.
stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Councilman Dyer.
Well, let's see. I attended my first Carroll Cable Commission regulatory meeting.
Excellent.
It turns out that we're doing an audit of some enhancements to the network, and there's still approximately 3,000 people in Carroll County who have no broadband service of any kind.
3,000?
2,600. I always figure they underestimate, so I'm saying 3.
Good to know.
Kind of shocks me, bothers me, offends me. But as the mayor well knows, we attended a online briefing, seminar, whatever you want to call it, about possible funding to help alleviate that if that was in our backyard, which it isn't. But in our backyard is an enormous data pipe that I'd love for us to tap into. And we're exploring various things. Working with one of the people speaking at this seminar online was Dr. Wack, who we come across him yet again. He's a great guy to know, and he knows lots of stuff. In addition to being a medical doctor, he's got a very good command of technology. And he has opened our eyes to some possibilities that we didn't know physically existed. And then combining the existence of with our great ideas, we may be able to make some things happen. And we'd like to talk to you later about that as a board. But we're still working on the details.
I think we're going to invite Dr. Wack to join us and provide a presentation. He's a former, oh goodness, yes, but the city of Westminster doesn't refer, common councilman as they call him or them, in the city of Westminster, as well as the mayor for a term or two. I don't recall. Don't quote
He
me.
does it all, doesn't he?
Yes.
He's a medical doctor, technology expert, and a politician.
Yes.
Does everything but ice skates, as far as I know.
He also sits on the Magic board, or at one point.
He was. I don't think he's on Magic's board, but that's the point. He knows all the right people about technology and wants to. This is what technology really is about, not just playing with it, making lives better. And he's hoping that some of these facilities, for example, faster data rates for the police department would be a grand thing. So, and for us all. So he's a great guy to know, and he's very helpful. So yes, we'd like to have him come by, and I think you guys will enjoy getting to know him as much as I did.
Me too. Thank you. So I'd like to report briefly on our outcome from my last minute scheduled and planned Habitat for Humanity partnership on bulk trash pickup day. Thanks, first of all, shout out to Derek, Director of Department of Public Works, for placating me and assisting, more than placating, but assisting me in the planning of that and coordinating that with the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity. And also shout out to Joe Costantini, our town manager, who picked up some bulk trash on Saturday morning as well. He loves when I do that, but it's true. And so,
in full clarification, I was only there for a few hours first thing in the morning. The bulk of the work was handled by Public Works crews.
all day, like until
All
like
day,
1 o'clock, right? Starting at like 5 a.m. or did you go out earlier?
No, we were at
Yeah,
5.
5. So anyway, so thank you for that. And I know
Just like the real fun.
I know the community is thankful for the opportunity to have this service provided to them at least annually. So just to report, the Habitat for Humanity truck was filled not once but twice. It made its way back to Westminster, or actually it's not Westminster, it's Reisterstown area where the scrap metal yard is, for them to make more room for more furniture and donatable donations. They were able to collect some scrap metal that I haven't gotten the numbers on it yet because they haven't turned it in to know what kind of that turns into dollars for Habitat for Humanity and their opportunity to build homes for those in need. And so those donations were taken as well by Habitat. But the furniture and building materials filled about a truck and a half. And it's only conjecture at this point because we don't know how much was actually put out on the curbs for the weekend for it to be picked up by either DPW and or Habitat. But what went across the scales from DPW's perspective was about 7 ton less than last year. But again, that could have been because of reduced participation overall. But after talking to Derek, he thinks that given the number of trucks that were filled by Habitat, it was probably closer to a 4 ton reduction in scales, in tipping fees at the scales that the taxpayers won't have to pay for. And so that was the win-win thing we were talking about. So next year it'll be more organized, and we'll probably try to do something that doesn't require so much coordination, and will ensure that that which is put out with the intentions of going to Habitat goes to Habitat to make it worth their time. I don't have a problem with donations that maybe were set out for the intentions of Habitat for Humanity being picked up by someone else in town who will make use of it, and it still didn't go in the landfill. That's the goal, but I would like to see it being worth Habitat's time investment. So we want to make sure that everything that's intended for them actually goes in the truck. So we'll line it up differently next year. But win-win, so thank you everybody for supporting that. That's all from me. Anyone with anything else?
Nope.
Oh, of course, we should announce the public hearing. So this isn't the first, I hope anybody's hearing this when they are hearing this now or playing it back, but the town council and myself will be holding a public hearing on May 3rd, which is a Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the Sykesville Middle School, specifically in the cafeteria, to hear public opinion and comment about the Warfield Investments zoning text amendment petition, which was heard by the Planning Commission, and the Town Council and myself received the Planning Commission's recommendation to deny that petition. And at this point, we're looking to hear from the people, hear from the public, and let us know what it is that you think about the upzoning request, and so that we can make an informed decision as a council. Okay? Good deal. Anything else from staff?
Again, just to publicly acknowledge all the hard work from the Department of Public Works for all the work on Saturday. Again, it's that's normally a day off for those guys, and they come in and work probably a little more than a full shift than they would normally do. So again, just thank you for all that hard work. And again, they were back at it this morning, working just as hard. So again, just thank you for all.
Yeah. Dependable group of staff and of employees, and specifically, I guess I should say, of men. They're all male, so thank you. Pass that along for us.
They all work very hard.
Yes, they do.
Derek, can I ask if you're fully staffed?
As of today, we are.
At this very moment, the answer is yes.
Tomorrow morning may be a different answer.
No, it's good the whole week.
Yeah, take it all week. Okay. So do I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, President Carter. Second.
Second.
Councilman Schofield, thank you. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
None opposed? All right, we are adjourned at 7:32 p.m. Thanks, everybody.
Didn't think I was watching.
Townhouse, yes.
Watch, I wasn't hiding anything.
Class?